don't particularly like horror films. I never have. There's only very few horror TV shows and movies that I've really watched that I've actually really enjoyed. When it comes to horror TV shows, it's mostly animes like Elfen Lied, Death Note, Tokyo Ghoul. Those are some of my favorite horror-esque series. And when it comes to movies, it's been very few and far in between. I watched some of the old Saw movies, but I kind of found them funny more than scary. And every time I attempt to watch any other horror movie outside of the classics, because I've watched old classics that I enjoyed, I feel like I'm being manipulated when they start throwing random jump scares at me when they can't realistically build tension where it makes sense. And I get mad because you're treating me like an idiot. But recently, I decided to jump into Obsession because I'm hearing all this hype about this movie and about the fact that it's written by another YouTuber-led movie. And I'm like, you know what? Since your boy has the same goal in life, let me see what bro got and let me check out his stuff afterwards. And I watched his stuff afterwards. All I know is the comedy to horror pipeline will forever be undefeated. But one of the main reasons I did watch this movie is because of Superman and Lois, because Indy was my girl, Sarah, despite her breaking my boy Jordan's heart. I will not forgive you for that. But all I'm going to say right now is that Obsession is one of the best horror films I've seen this year. Which is crazy because the only other horror film I've watched this year, I believe, was Iron Lung. And that movie was pretty good also. So the bar has been pretty high, but this movie definitely surpassed that movie. For those who are not watching the movie and do not know the backstory of the film, it's very simple. The concept is very, very simple. The story is following our boy Bear, who has this crush on this girl named Nikki. Nikki, for the most part, seems to be kind of friend-zoning our boy Bear, but Bear has this deep-seated crush for her, so he wants to ask her out. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, he can't bring himself to do it because the cojones not strong enough, they not firm enough. So what does he do? He starts finding a way to, get in her good graces, and he accidentally finds something called a One Wish Willow inside of a random magic-esque psychic shop, and he buys it just for shits and giggles. Then one day he decides to actually break it and wish that Nikki loved him more than anyone in the entire world, and she becomes this overseated, insane, jealous, obsessed girlfriend, hence the title of the movie. And essentially, we are following the darkness that comes with the fact that he basically took agency away from this girl named Nikki, who at the first thought could have possibly liked him back, but since he decided to take that choice away from her, she is nothing more than just a reflection of the desires that he wants. And of course, you see all the darkness that comes to the question, is this the person that actually loves you? Do you believe this is real love? And at the very end of the film, you learn the lesson of being careful of what you actually wish for, because it may not what you actually want. So I'm going to say this right now, this is going to have very light spoilers. I'm not going to go into super details about what's going on because I believe that some things need to be broken up personally in a way where it makes sense. So if you're planning to watch the film and you don't want to hear too much about what I have to say, feel free to click off and come back later. But one of the reasons why I really like this film is that it builds tension almost perfectly. I say perfectly, it's not perfect at all points in time, but it's one of the few films that isn't afraid to lean into the weirdness of that said film. One of the reasons why I am not exactly attached to horror films is because a lot of the people that play in these movies, like say take Friday the 13th or Halloween, the very similar concept is that you are following a bunch of teenagers who are these attractive people who literally all they care about is screwing each other or going to parties or doing these different things, and you have this monster or creature who for the most part is having this personal vendetta because of a family bloodline or whatever the case may be, and all they're doing is running around and hunting them down. The cliches, they kill a bunch of teenagers who might be having sex. You have the jump scares or the fake tension buildups where you think the villain's in front of the main character, but in reality they're behind them and they get stabbed in their back and they die immediately. Like, stuff like that never really got me attached to horror films because it made me feel like you're trying to manipulate me into being scared, when in reality I want you to be weird. I want characters to look stupid. I say stupid in quotations because that's not what I actually mean by being stupid. I want them to look goofy. I want them to look unnatural. That's the goal of horror films. When something becomes unnerving, it doesn't look normal. And a lot of these other horror films, from what I've seen in previous times, that's why I don't particularly care to go watch them, they always seem to have these characters who just look the same. They don't necessarily shift or change their face. They don't act any differently. It just feels very stale to me. In this movie, my girl Indy, since my first introduction to her was Superman and Lois, she was cooking with those face expressions, bro. because after the wish is made, she actually genuinely looks unnerving, and they lean into those scenes a lot more than I expected them to. You have these camera shots where they zoom in on her face and they zoom out, and they actually point out that she actually looks like some kind of jealous girlfriend who doesn't want to play with the idea that her boyfriend may not like her for any particular reason, especially after the wish, because she's supposed to be so obsessed with him that she does not want him to be mad at her. She doesn't want him to be sad with her for any particular reason. So in one of the scenes, like I believe it's shown in the trailer, so it's not that big of a spoiler, when she's doing the scene where she's screaming no, 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 it's revealed that in that moment that she keeps saying that her dad was sick and she was acting weird because her dad was dying. But throughout the film, you hear from other characters saying, like, what are you talking about? Like, she hates her dad. She doesn't talk about her dad. She's not close with her dad at all. And then it's also revealed by Ian, the guy's friend, saying that, hey, I looked into Nikki's dad, and Nikki's dad is healthy as a horse. He was chilling good. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So of course Bear decides to confront her, and then that's when she snaps and starts trying to be like, oh, we're having a good day, having like the old ugly crying face and the squinting eyes and the smile to the dropping frown, all these different things. Like, she was doing good, bro. Like, that's the stuff I want to see in general movies. Like, I'm kind of like teetering back and forth, because one of the reasons why I like this film is because as much as I was watching it like a horror film, I try to relate it to other movies that could do something similar. When I watch an action film or a martial arts film, I expect people to look ugly. People are bleeding and getting punched. Like, yeah, you can look cool, but I want you to look like you're actually fighting. I want you to feel exhausted, punch in the chin. You know, things are supposed to be leaking everywhere. If your jaw gets knocked off, you're supposed to feel like your tongue should be hanging out a little bit. Like, when you look at fighters in the UFC, they look crazy. But I'm getting off the point. Another great thing about this film is that they are not afraid to lean into the comedy that they're familiar with. When I watch their comedy sketches after this movie, I can see that they were not afraid to do a lot of the cringe moments that lean into why this film actually has this unnerving idea. Because outside of the context of it being a horror film, I'm pretty sure you can see it in their sketch and it would be funny. But since in the context of a horror film and it's not played as a joke, you can definitely see why it's unnerving. Moments where you feel like it doesn't look like it's entirely planned, you know, her being really cringe to the main character Bear. For example, at the party scene in the later end of the movie when they're playing together and he's supposed to kiss Sarah because of Jenga, and the very next thing she does is just stand up immediately, and you see the iconic frown face that she makes as soon as she stands up, and she stands there for like a minute and a half. And then she walks behind Sarah and then pulls her out of her chair. Not pull her out, but she pulls the chair back really slow, gets on her knees in front of him, and then just stands here with her like kissy face. It's laughable. It's funny. It looks goofy. But in that context, it's a bit unnerving. And then obviously it builds up to the crazy thing she does later on in that film when she actually hurts herself. Because those bits of tiny scenes, without using any extra unnecessary music, it literally is still building towards the crazy thing she does later, because you know she's going to do something nuts. And I love the fact that it's building towards it without you having to feel like it's artificial. One of the other things I really liked is that they don't make you want to exactly root for the main character, because the main character is a guy who's a living embodiment of nothing more than nice guys finish last. Like, that's what it gets in my head when I saw him and how he was acting. Because the very first scene you see him, he's pouring his heart out to a random stranger because he's practicing to shoot his shot with Nikki, but obviously it comes off as really bad and cringe. And his friend Ian is telling him not to do that. But then I'm getting this vibe that Ian is exactly trying to manipulate or even exactly sabotage Bear, because he tells him to do something that he knows that Nikki won't like. And he tries it later on in the car scene, I think about 5 minutes into the film, and she gets pissed at him and she realizes that he's trying to do something, so she tries to like confront him. But the whole thing is that he literally just couldn't bring himself to just do something so simple of just asking Nikki out. Like, that was the main point of the film. He couldn't bring himself to just simply say, let me ask her out and deal with the consequences later. This is a position that a lot of people deal with personally. So that's one of the reasons why I think they made it this kind of very not new concept, because Wish scenarios has been used in all forms of media. Like Fairly Odd Parents did it, Jimmy Neutron did it, a lot of other movies did it in comedy senses, action senses. Like, they do it all over the place, but they use it in a way that it actually doesn't feel too cliche. They actually make you still feel locked into the film. When I was watching the movie, I couldn't look away. A lot of times when I watch movie films, I kind of intensively look away, because when they know you're going to hit you with a jump scare, obviously they build up the music, the camera shot, so you know it's coming. So what do? You look away so you don't get scared. You know it's coming. In this film, you don't exactly know when the quote-unquote jump scare is going to happen, because I don't even really call them jump scares. There's like very few moments where you would think it's a jump scare, but really it's not really that. At least it's not the typical jump scare, I should say. But Bear was on my shit list this entire movie. I'm telling you this right now. Like, Bear, I wanted him dead. Like, I legit wanted him dead, because how he was acting, I can see a person doing this, which really, like, that was part of the reasons that it freaked me out. Like, I've met people who have these perspectives. I will even personally admit it. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I'll personally admit it. There are moments and times where I felt those feelings. Not that to a degree, like not as deep as him, but like when I was a teenager, like when I was really young, like when you really like someone, you want them to like them back, and you are almost willing to do quote unquote anything to make them like you back because you think they're the greatest person on planet Earth, and you're not prepared for the rejection. So clearly this guy has never felt that deep of a rejection before. So he's willing to literally just cut out rejection entirely. One of the other things that I really did like, and it's something that I wish a lot more horror films would actually lean into, is that they played around with lighting and scene setup. Because a lot of scenes where you see the main girl, Nikki, in certain positions, she just looks like she's very hard to see in general. Like, the lighting actually shows her in like a dark light. There's no light illuminating her eyes or her face. It's just she's in a dark shadow. And you can tell that it's supposed to be some form of a representation of the fact that she is not exactly herself. Like, one of the things that they like to do throughout the film is that it's very hard to tell when real Nikki and quote unquote fake Nikki kind of snap back between each other, because there's moments in the film where they switch places, but you can't really tell the major difference of what's going on. And I believe it's supposed to be intentional, and it plays around with the idea that this man Bear is willing to accept her in any position despite it being very torturous for her, even though he may not see it that way. He may be scared and petrified of what's going on, but for whatever reason, he's willing to accept this position because at least Nikki loves him back. Which makes it even more crazy when the ending of the movie comes up, and I'm not going to say exactly what happens at the ending, but essentially like how it's framed. And even though I learned actually recently that one of the actions that Bear does in that ending, it was actually an actor's choice, it actually shows that he was willing to, at least at the very last moments, even accept what was going on. This man was so brain rotted beyond belief because he wanted her to love him so badly that he was willing to accept her in the position, in the condition that she was in, despite all of the carnage that she caused throughout the movie. Like, literally, people were lost because he couldn't bring himself to just simply say, this was wrong, this is wrong, I shouldn't do it. He knows it's wrong. He kept doing it. And that leads into the idea why this movie is probably so entertaining, because you want Nikki to be free. But to a degree, you also hoped that the main character, Bear, would bring himself to do it himself. Like, how far is he willing to accept? Like, what is he willing to accept just for the obsessive love of this one person? And one thing that they did in this movie that they talked about in the very beginning through Nikki before the wish was made is that she's a writer, and she even talked about something that actually lead into the film of this idea of the movie, which I've never heard this concept before, funny enough, because a lot of times when I hear it, it feels like it's supposed to be related to that. The statement she said is that she doesn't believe that a love story and a romance are synonymous with each other. And I said, oh, I never saw it that way. Because a lot of people, when I watch romance films, because a lot of y'all guys know I don't like romance films. I don't like romance stories in general, because a lot of them glorify a lot of different stuff that's just not entertaining for me. But a lot of the times they would say like, oh, this is a love story, a romance that is for the ages. But in this movie, they completely separate the idea of a love story in a romance, making it that a love story is more likely to be more one-sided compared to a romance where there is at least some form of reciprocation. Because when you think of romance, you don't think of, oh, one person loves them more than anything. You call them either a simp or a weirdo or something like that. But in real life, if someone was in love with another person and the other person is in love with them, you call that romance because it's reciprocated. It's built with each other. Something that you know good and well that these two people consented to be a part of. If you force someone else to be a part of it, it's a love story of one person's obsession becoming another person's downfall, which I think is a crazy and an amazing theme that this movie done that I never expected in it. Like, I really just didn't want to watch it because I just didn't care for horror films. I just don't care for them in general. And despite that, funny enough, the director Corey Baker has actually talked about the idea of possibly creating a TV show later on if there was a continuation of this franchise or idea, where he does a TV show kind of like Black Mirror, where it's a completely separate stories, but they're all based around the One Wish Willow. And I even was motivated to think of writing my own horror-esque idea for it. And I already got like 5 ideas in the pop of my head. I wrote them down. I'm like, bro, if he ever does do this, bro, just let me know. I'll got a script for you like 5 years in advance. I promise you. I even made a tweet about it. Didn't go anywhere, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna say this right now. This movie is definitely worth every dollar you can spend on it. Is it perfect? No, there are some things that I feel like they could have done better. Like the way that one character dies, I won't say specifically, I felt was a little bit dumb closer to the end, because it kind of didn't really make any sense because bro was there when One Wish was made. But either way, I'm pretty sure those who watch the film will know what I'm talking about. Like, I just thought his death was kind of off. But trying to avoid doing too many spoilers in the comments, but obviously I'm just letting you know now. If you have not watched the movie, read the comments at your own risk. And Megan Lolas, I know Bear didn't watch you, but my DMs are open. I'm gonna just say that. I'm gonna just say that. I gotta shoot my job, unlike Bear. I'm sorry. If you really like this video, guys, don't forget to like this video, and also don't forget to subscribe. Also, it helps me out in the long run. Let me know if there's any other movies you want me to talk about. I'm more than happy to talk about other horror films and other genres of films outside of action and animation. Don't forget to check out the gaming channel. Also, I've been playing a lot of fighting games, and I recently did a video on Xenoverse 2 because I'm preparing for Xenoverse 3. Maybe I might re-download Call of Duty because I heard Indy a little bit of a Call of Duty fiend. Like, hey, if she do it, I might re-download it. I'm more of a finals guy, trust me. Like, I prefer to play the finals, but you know what? Whatever she down for. It's your boy Kadukun. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadukun. Yeah, welcome to the channel.